What's up, everybody? Thralls here once again. I'm Necrotic.
I'm Jammin.
And we have yet another album review for you, and one that I know I have been anticipating because I'm a big fan of this band. Not entirely sure how much you've ever listened to this band before.
So I didn't think I had, but then he reminded me that I had a bunch, and when he played me the track that I was very familiar with, I was like, oh yeah, I've heard this band. So, yes, but no, I'm not as well-versed as he is, but I'm not as well-versed. I don't think any of us are as well-versed as this guy is in most music, so...
Debatable.
I mean, whatever, but... Okay.
So we are going to go over the latest offering from Huntsmen, The Dry Land. This also comes out on the 7th of June on Prosthetic Records. This band formed sometime before 2014 in Chicago, Illinois. It does not say like the specific year in the archives. So that was when the first EP came out. So it had to be before that, right?
Yeah, right.
This is their third full-length overall. I have been a fan since their debut full-length, American Scrap. And actually their last album, Mandela of Fear, which was a double album, was on my year-end list for 2020. And this band just instantly hit with me. Like, they just clicked. It is a weird blend of doom metal, sludge metal, post-metal, I would even say stoner metal, and maybe even to a degree, like, progressive rock. They're a hodgepodge of like different influences sort of amalgamized into this sound that I would say is kind of their own. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of immediately clicked with me, and I heard one of the lead-off singles for this. I really didn't need to. I was going to go over it anyway because I've loved everything this band has put out so far. And yeah, this one's, again, absolutely amazing, but we're going to get more into that. But yeah, I'll let you kind of explain how wild this is, because I'm kind of used to it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it just hits home in a lot of camps that I've been into for a long time, even before I started getting into death metal. I was definitely into, stoner rock and bands like Mastodon and Intronaut and that whole thing. So to me, it was just, like you said, an amalgamation of all of these camps that I used to draw from as I was getting into heavier music, and like the way that this is presented is just masterful. I don't know. It just kind of took me down a road that I haven't been down in a while, and just said, here you go. If you've forgotten about this whole style of music, here's something to just kick your ass. And that's pretty much what this record did. Starts off with This Hour Gospel. It kicks in the door immediately. Big, dirty, crunchy guitars. They immediately have a sludgy, yet kind of like, I don't know, Western feel to them. Like,
they're warm. They're warm, but they're crunchy. It's very thick. There's like just this kind of like big stomp that comes in. Like, it kind of like almost comes in, not as a death metal song, but almost sort of like a death metal style intro where it's like doing that kind of like double time, kind of like, not really a blast, but like a stomping groove. The riffs themselves are very melodic, but it's that sort of wall of dense sound. They're kind of crackly. And then you start getting into these, big syncopated slow riffs, and then the vocals come out. And the vocals are kind of what drew me into this band initially on American Scrap. They do such an amazing job when it comes down to vocal harmonies. And I believe there are at least 3 vocalists on here. Who knows, the whole band may sing, but I would say that their guitarist, frontman Chris Kang, and vocalist Amy Bueno pretty much do the bulk of the vocals. Like, there's tons of vocal harmonies and layers on here, and different styles of vocals. You have harsh screams, you have, very, kind of like rustic, almost bluesy singing. You have more atmospheric, sort of breathy vocals. It all comes together so well. But those two in particular are the ones that I think really drive a lot of the vocal harmonies, and there's just an interesting quality to their vocals. It's rustic. It's almost like, I don't know, like U.S. folk, like a little bit of that, American Gothic sort of vibe. Mm-hmm. Like, honestly, like, they're from Chicago. They know the Rust Belt aesthetic. We're from Toledo. We're very Rust Belt here.
Yeah,
still.
We get it.
It kind of has that vibe. It's strange that the vocals create that kind of atmosphere in particular, but I definitely get it.
And the first couple songs, at least, remind me a lot of, like, the midpoint of Intronaut, when they got out of their, like, progressive sludge, technical. I don't know what you would call his first couple albums, but right around the time they hit Valley of Smoke, when they started to get a little bit more proggy and a little more experimental with, you know, just being kind of airy and cosmic and spacey and whatever. It's that point in Innernaut's career where they started employing more of the clean vocals versus the harshes. And, like, it just kind of had that vibe. Like, the vocal harmonies just straight reminded me of Innernaut.
And this blend on here, like, it's kind of all over the place. Like, song structure-wise, there's a lot of that post-metal building. Like, you know, starting off with something small, building on top of it and top of it until you get these giant layers of sound, you know, dense guitars, also lots of vocal layers, you know, heavy drum syncopation, and then bringing it back down to a small moment and then building it back up. Cruelly Dawns is a great example of that. But that song, as well as the closing track, The Herb Site, also kind of traipse into that whole stoner metal genre. Like, it really kind of has that desert rock vibe. Like, dude, the beginning of Herb Site, these lush, huge, stony melodies, just a ton of sustain on every chord he hits. It's very spacey and cosmic. It's like a jam session with, like, Monolord, Wino, and Monster Magnet. You know, all of that kind of like big stony atmosphere, slow droning bass. It kind of takes you on a trip. And that trip is definitely at dusk in the desert. You may or may not be on peyote. Who knows? You probably shouldn't be driving, but there's a good chance you are.
And really, all the songs do this. Like, Lean Time starts out super acoustic melody. It's almost like a campfire jam. I just get huge vibes of everybody sitting around a fire. You're drinking something you probably shouldn't be drinking. And it's quiet for the most part. And then almost 3 minutes into the song, that's when the drums finally hit. And it builds into this big, like, open, just stony jam before it swells back into somber quietness.
It's a weird contrast. Like, Lean Times, it starts off like a Neil Young song, and then by the time that bridge hits, I'm more reminded of, like, Cave-In's Jupiter. You know, the big, lush, sort of spacey guitars, that kind of shoegazy vibe, but it still has that sort of, like, rustic, bluesy sort of vibe to it. You know, I feel like a good chunk of this could be used to score, like, several Quentin Tarantino movies. And, you know, there's just like a vibe and an atmosphere, and it's very visual. Like, I ended up thinking about, like, settings for a lot of these songs rather than, you know, like bands that are compared to, which, believe me, I have a lot of those too. Tool, Baroness, Mastodon, tons of bands. But the settings, I think, are really important. Like a song like Rain. Rain.
I love that song so much.
It's beautiful. And it sounds like it just kind of came into a dusty town like Tombstone on a horse with a bad leg. It just asked the barkeep for 2 fingers of whiskey. It's very just like kind of country western, a little bit of like Nick Cave in there. And how this song builds up is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, because it builds out of all of that into probably one of the swingiest, dirtiest, funkiest grooves, I think, on the whole album. I spent a lot of time during that whole groove just going, and the vocals in Rain.
That's when he came.
Dude, Amy's vocals in Rain, I think, are some of the best that have been presented on the entire record. Because normally in this album, she sticks in kind of like this lower, like, crooning type of range and doesn't really let her voice really come out to play. But in this, she goes for it and nails it. And it's awesome.
She belts it out, and there's a really cool part where she's like kind of harmonizing with, you know, the gruffer, more like scream vocals, because all of a sudden behind her come these like desperate screams before it gets into this just absolutely saturated in bluesy licks bridge that comes up. But yeah, she is just belting them out with like way more authority, because, you know, a lot of her vocals on here are generally very harmonized, but she kind of stays very breathy.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's the whole, like, you know, keeping things kind of, you know, small and then building them up. This is an album I would say, like, you have to be patient with, and your patience will be rewarded with just absolutely killer payoffs. Yeah. This album, and I would say by extension, just this band, is great about building tension, and again, with this sort of like post-metal build dynamic, it's constant builds and constant transitions into totally different parts. The opening track, This Our Gospel, has a ton of different groovy transitions and fun drum patterns. It kind of feels like a couple of different songs kind of blended together, but it's that blend that actually keeps it together. Like, none of these songs feel like they kind of reach too far or try to experiment a little bit too much. They all work in their own way, and honestly, they all kind of stand out for different reasons.
Like the song In Time All Things almost comes in like a black metal song. Like almost, like a mixture of like black metal and like Cult of Luna.
Yeah, I mean, like post black metal, like I thought of like Harakiri for the Sky, and
yeah.
I mean, I would say Deaf Evan, but I didn't want to turn it off, so not like Deaf Evan.
This is another good example of letting things simmer to build into something big. After you get through flowing through the canyon on a hang glider, it kind of cuts off a little bit, gets really pretty. Amy comes in with almost like a Tori Amos sort of vibe. Big gradual builds, but something that they do to really help further build the tension is they like to do big single accents. Like, and most of the time it's almost like a pulsing heartbeat, like doo-dun, doo-dun. And that's what's done here before it jumps into something actually just really heavy, reminding me a lot of like Mastodon and Neurosis and such.
Yeah, that steady build that's on In Time All Things, the riff that comes in once you get to that big payoff is heavy. Like, honestly, one of the meanest riffs on here. And like, there isn't like a tremendous amount of like aggression, even with all the shouting. Like, the yells and screams feel more desperate than anything else. But that riff in particular feels just super aggressive. And in terms of like song building and just really taking you on a ride, technically like two rides, because the front half is totally different than the back half. The Herb Site, man, could be my favorite track on here. That song takes you again right into like super stony territory. You get, again, those lush guitars. The bass line that comes in is just dripping with the love of Black Sabbath, more than likely.
Yeah.
And man, it's just this like kind of slow, kind of spacey jam. It's very cosmic sounding. And it goes on for a while. You got time to just kind of sit and chill with this, which I love that about this album. They like to drone on really cool parts. But then you get this like brief vocal harmony break. And then you hear the bass start to get like a little funky, a little bit more aggressive. Treble drums come in, and dude, this last half, like, this is a huge crescendo that keeps constantly building and gets more intense and just gets more, I don't know, like vibrant. Like, it feels like it's just constantly building. The tribal patterns get more intricate, and honestly, kind of reminded me of Tool, like specifically like 46 and 2. Like, you know the moment we're probably talking about if you're a Tool fan. And if you're a Tool fan, you're probably like, how dare you compare any other band to Tool right now? So, whatever. Actually,
it reminded me more if Primus covered 46 and 2, most specifically. Because that bass line, when he gets in there, it's like a little bit slappy, like do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
Yep.
It's really sweet. But that whole section, yeah, it's just a collection of awesome builds. Like Rain specifically, that time in that song where it gets kind of funky and they're just jamming right there, like, I got straight goosebumps. And I could have lived in that pocket of music for another 10 minutes and been perfectly fine. Like, that's my gripe. That Rain's only 4 minutes long, because that song could have been like 13 minutes long and it would have been awesome. It's still awesome, but it's like that. Like, they find these perfect areas for you to kind of nestle yourself into. And then they give you all the best parts of those areas that you're nestled into. Like, they give you a bunch of the softest pillows and the skunkiest of weed and say, have at it.
Yeah, everything on here is just huge, but it's also very intimate. Like, you get both of those vibes. Like, again, these songs can start off very small, you know, like acoustic guitars, just a single vocal track, become the biggest thing ever, and then shrink right back down to that, to where it's just like you and the band just playing in front of you. And I love that about this. And I think that is also, you know, really shown in the production here. It feels like a live show. Like, honestly, the entire listen, I felt like I watched a live show. And, you know, you kind of get that whole, like, mind-blowing experience, like, oh my God, I've never heard of this band before. Well, I mean, if you're him. But
I've heard of them.
yeah,
But
okay,
yeah.
fair enough. Whatever.
Yeah.
But you get that whole experience like, this is a totally new thing to me and it absolutely blew my mind and I want to meet the band but hopefully not be like super awkward with them. It's sort of an all-encompassing listen and I think it brings out the best aspects of all of the styles that they blend here. Like you get sludge metal heaviness, the stoner metal atmosphere, and again that post-metal kind of like build. Like I don't get like a profound sense of doom. Like it's definitely has its more like dark, sullen moments on here, but I kind of get like more of that stoner doom warmth overall. The songwriting is lavish enough to even make arguments that there are some progressive elements. I definitely got that on first 2 tracks at least, and In Time All Things. There's definitely some shifts in there in terms of like just changing genres almost.
And the herb site.
Yeah. You know, there's stuff on there that I would definitely argue has like some more progressive leanings. Hell, some of the vocal harmonies kind of remind me of like classic Yes. Yes was known for all that stuff. But yeah, in terms of any negatives on here, I am hard pressed to find any. Like I agree, Rain could have been longer. Like I could have lived in that groove for like a week if they would like put me up and feed me breakfast and all that stuff. But yeah, like that's it. Like there's really nothing on here that didn't appeal to me, and man, all of it feels heartfelt. Like I just love the fact that I feel like a emotional connection in this music, and as I get older I kind of look for that a little bit more. Like this one gave me like waves of emotions, and after kicking off this week with like so much death metal, it was nice to feel an emotion other than rage.
Yeah, right.
And this is just a fantastic listen from start to finish, and I don't know, could be their best one yet. It definitely has elements of, you know, both the last 2, but man, this is really just flat out amazing. And I'm going to go ahead and give it 4.5 stars. It is definitely teetering near that elusive 5 mark that I have not given out in a long time and will continue not to give out, at least for this one. But yeah, this is fantastic. A totally immersive listen. The songwriting might be some of their most dynamic and adventurous yet, and it all comes together so damn well. The guitar work, while I think it might be like a little bit less riffy, it's not really a complaint because they generate a lot of atmosphere with the interesting tones they choose, and it still has plenty of riffs, but the vocals steal the show.
Yes,
like,
they do.
Every single vocal harmony on here is beautiful. Even all the isolated vocals on here, they're excellent. I might go as far as to say these might be some of my favorite vocals I have heard this year in terms of music. Like, these are just flat out catchier than hell. Every track in here stands on its own. They're all super strong. I particularly like the Stony Grooves on Cruelly Dawns and the Herb Site. Man, those songs in particular, like I love Stoner Doom and Stoner Rock and that desert rock vibe, and nailed it. This is absolutely fantastic. If you're a fan of, Intronaut, Cave-In, Tool, Mastodon, Caius, Baroness, The Sword, Inter Arma, lists of bands, tons of bands.
Yep.
Check this out. Honestly, I would even say some non-metal fans might even really dig this too, if they can get past, a couple of the screams, because that's always an issue. But yeah, check this out.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Nick. If you haven't figured that out by now, we've both been down here kind of shits and giggles talking about this record. It's a definite 4.5, and I mean, I know that I'm usually apt to more willingly give out 5s, and I mean, we're right there. This is really, really damn good. I will probably continue to listen to this for quite some time. This is going to be such a great night drive album. I have no doubt. Anyway, all these songs rule. I agree that the vocals steal the show. Like, musically, this is pretty top-notch anyway for what it is, especially if you like, post-metal and stoner rock and sludge and whatever. Like, all these songs are uniquely and beautifully crafted. It's going to take you on a journey. There's a definite vibe in all of these songs. It's like this record reaches out and gives you a hug at times. I had goosebumps throughout this record. Really, actually couldn't wait to see what came around each corner next. But vocally, just, man, the vocal harmonies are something else. And Amy's, big vocal moment in Rain, it was captivating. Like, I enjoyed the hell out of this album. It's riffy at times, it's heavy at times, but I've found my solace and comfort in this record in its more quiet and intimate moments, which it definitely has. It just, I don't know, it gets you, it grabs you. This record grabs a hold of you and kind of just says, okay, sit here, watch this. And it's beautiful. I really don't have any complaints except for Rain not being longer. Again, that groovy pocket, once you get to it and once you hear it, you'll understand.
Yeah, if you play this live, guys, like, give it the YYZ treatment. Just kind of take it for a walk.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, if you play it live, please take that groove right there and just have at it. Just go. Absolutely no one will complain. We won't complain. There won't be any complaints. Everyone's going to be stoned and they're going to love it.
I'll buy 2 shirts if you do that.
Ooh. Oh shit, there you go. The old 2-shirt deal. Anyway, yeah, if you're a fan of, oh god, Intronaut, Cave-In, Tool, Mastodon, Baroness, The Sword, Spirit Caravan, COC, Primus, like a litany of awesome bands, you're really gonna dig this. I would definitely recommend checking this out. I honestly can't wait to listen to it again. I'm probably gonna jam it on the way home.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon if you'd like to help us out there. There's a link down below, thrallsmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there. It is also on our channel, up in the bottom right-hand corner of our banner. But if you're looking for Thralls Metal stuff, you have to go to thrallsmetal.com. We have t-shirts, both old and new. The old ones are discounted, provided we have your size. And we even have hats, too. So if you're looking for any of that stuff, click the link down below.
Tons of stuff going on at Thralls of Metal, album reviews, discography rankings. In fact, we're about to sit down and rank Meshuggah, which should be grossly entertaining. Nick's got States of Metal, is it metal, is it not metal, metal, that's what we do, we're Thralls of Metal. But really, we couldn't do any of it without you guys. We genuinely appreciate our fans and our subscribers and our friends and our family and everybody that helps make Thralls of Metal into something way bigger than we ever thought it would be. We ran into a bunch of you guys at Maryland Death Fest, which we're going to get into here in a couple days. On June 11th over at Future Ruins channel, we're going to do a recap of our 5 magical days in Baltimore for Maryland Death Fest. It was awesome. It was awesome running into the fans. We love meeting you guys. It's a real treat. We appreciate you all. Thank you.
Yeah, Baltimore is a real treat. It is also loaded with rats and prostitutes. But it's a real treat.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, you guys are absolutely awesome. And tons more coming on the channel. So one more big thank you, and we will catch you later.